Hey everybody, this is William Smith again with Kentucky Traditional Leather and Forge, and what I wanted to talk to you today about for the blacksmithing portion is the main centerpiece of the blacksmith shop. That would be the Blacksmith's Anvil. This anvil right here is a London pattern. It weighs 211 pounds, and what I'm going to go over with you onto it is the different parts of the anvil. I'm a right-handed smith, so naturally when I step up to this, the horn will be on my left. If I was left-handed, most of the smiths have the horn to their right. This one specific piece, along with the forge and my post vise, creates what later on I'll go to sit down and tell you guys about the blacksmith's triangle. This piece here in the book that I said everybody can follow on can be found on page 66 of Alex Beeler's The Art of Blacksmithing, and I'll sit down, start to go over it. What we have, initially is the face of the anvil. This is the working portion. We have the body of the anvil, and then we have the base, for it. Up here on the top part, what we have is the pritchel hole, the hardy hole, your working face. This is the drop. This is your working plate or table. You've got the horn. Then you've got the shoulder, up underneath. You have the waist of the anvil, the heel of the anvil, and then the feet. These are all utilized in working with, the different techniques that we have. The table right here, is a lot of times used where a blacksmith will use a chisel, for it. If a smith is trying to bend or work on drawing something out, he'll utilize the horn, for it. Sometimes he'll come up underneath. Working face, this is the main item right here. Every different anvil will be different. From here, working the different items, sometimes we need the hardy hole, and the hardy hole's where all these different items go. That's my cut-off hardy. On the pritchel hole, for sitting down using a pritchel for enlarging a hole, or sometimes to utilize my hold down, will go right in there, for it. And the heel of the anvil is the back side. Normally we don't want to go too far back here on working, for it. But this specific anvil, it has a wrought iron body to it. In the waist of the anvil right here, there's two holes to let you know that this is a foundry forged, not a cast body. It has a steel plate. This is a high carbon steel, on the top that's been forge welded to the wrought iron base, for it. It's set down, if you want to say, to the anvils will normally give a ring. So what happens is a lot of smiths will either chain the item down or put it to a stump. I myself, because of the ring, I put this into the pritchel hole in order to kind of not deaden the sound, but it kind of dulls the sound out. Another item that can go on here is what they call the anvil saddle. This is actually where I do a lot of my cutting at, to where I save my anvil, for it. You can sometimes tell how good a smith is, or so, whether he has hammer nicks or so into the face of it. It's important to have this area here, pretty smooth, because anything that you hit hot on here will, if it's got a divot or a indentation here, it's going to transfer to your piece. What I set down to do is I kind of let the anvil rust up a bit, and then when I clean it, I oil it. That's why you'll see it black and things instead of shiny. I'm going to transition here around to the front of it and see if I can show you a couple areas. Most of these anvils have some kind of imprint which has been stamped into the anvil, and you can sometimes date these anvils in a book called The Anvils of America that has a lot of the research done as far as which companies are what. They would change up the different kinds of stampings in there in order to date the anvil. This one here is really dulled out, and I suspect it's actually what they call a double stamp anvil, for it. But you have also on the anvil, you'll see different numbers. This one has 3 different numbers, for it. And the way that you read those numbers would be like if it was a 1, a 2, and a 3, for it. The first category here, contributes to hundredths weights. This is quarter hundredweights. In other words, this would be a 1, 2, or 3, or 4. Rarely 4, because that means a full 100th. And then this is single pounds. So with the hundredths weights, which is a Anglo-Saxon style, of unit of measure, this means 112 pounds. The 2 on here, being half of the hundredths weights, would be 56. And then on the third category, right here, this is just simple pounds, which would be nothing more than 3. You put all that together, you have 171 pound anvil. Sometimes, based over the years or the different things, the actual weight of the anvil versus what's stamped into it are 2 different things. Like I was saying, this is a 211 pound anvil. It's been a while since I've seen the chalk rubbing that I had. And the way that you can kind of lift this imprint here off is taking a piece of paper, using a piece of charcoal or chalk, and going over it, and it will show the actual, if you want to say, imprint that's left on there. It'll tell you what it is, and then you can sit down and see if you've got a valuable anvil, historical anvil, or not. My traveling anvil, I've actually done that with. It's a 1953 mouse hole anvil, and it's 98 pounds. Or excuse me, let me back that up, 1853. And I know that by going to some of the different forums and message boards and saying this is what I got, and some of the guys explained to me the way that they basically categorized it was how they changed up the different stampings throughout the different times. This being wrought iron, for it is, they don't make the wrought iron anymore. It was, foundry smelted. And, basically, the older the anvil, sometimes the worse condition it's in, sometimes it's been through different things. Like if this anvil, was found to where if it was, in a fire, it may have set down and lost, the heat treating and everything that's done to it. I've seen them to where these have been broken off here on the back. I had a 300 pound anvil where this was broke. The base of them, like the Fisher Norse, some of these are cast anvils with the solid millet plate, that's been welded onto it. And, you've also got what's called the English pattern, for it. When you go and you look at some of the colonial anvils, you'll notice that they are, missing the Pritchard hole. Sometimes you've got the Hardy hole here versus the Hardy hole here. The medieval anvils, a lot of times were the square style, or, they went in, they had what they called the stump anvils. I mostly utilized and was taught on the London pattern. I do have, in the past, had the English pattern, not very, bad at all to work on. The London pattern is just my, preferred anvil. Now, where you can find these at, different collections, the Blacksmith hammer-ins, you can find them on Craigslist. You can sometimes find them at auctions, and they'll range anywhere depending on the quality of the anvil, depending on who made the anvil. If it's like an Arm & Hammer, or one of the Vulcans, which would be in the lower categories, as opposed to a Trenton, or maybe a Hay Budden, Peter Wright, which would be in the upper categories. The anvils can be priced anywhere from $1 to $4 a pound. if you kind of say this is the most premium anvil that I could find at this 211 pounds here, you're talking about $4 a pound. That would be somewhere around $850. I've seen them go as high as, you know, the collector anvils, $5 and $6 a square or a pound, and that's way out of my budget. If I'm looking for a good anvil, I'm going to try to go for about $3 to $4 a pound. Definitely make sure I know the name, you know, that's on here, you know, for it. Definitely good to research your anvils. I'll go into another video that's, you know, on trying to find an anvil and how to look for the better parts, you know, for it. The other part that I definitely want to cover on this is when you're buying an anvil or something, is the different sizes. Now, I've seen the ones that are like 300 pounds, a little too big for me. The shop that I learned in was 350 pound anvil. It was a Peter Wright, and definitely excellent quality. Jim always said that was an anvil that took 2 men and a boy to help move. This one here being 211 pounds, this is a shop anvil, or what I was taught, it's called a lifetime anvil. In other words, you're going to definitely, when you buy an anvil this size, 150 pounds or more, you're going to have it for, you know, a lifetime of about 20 years at the minimum. The smaller anvils, which a lot of horseshoers and farriers like because they're always on the move, is what I call the traveling anvils, and that's where my, you know, small mouse hole anvil comes in. That's my traveling anvil. To carry that 98 pound anvil versus this 211 pound anvil is a big difference, you know, for it. When you're working with the anvil, you want to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to take care of it. If this anvil is going to last me 20 years, you know, for it, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm putting possibly $800 into an anvil. You know, it's going to last me 20 years. And I'll sit down and I'll get into, you know, once again when I, you know, do a video on showing why you would put that much money into one of these. You really get what you pay for it. This one, I suspect, or if memory recalls, you know, it's a eagle, or what they call an American eagle. It's served me for probably going on a good 8 years, you know, to it. I had one of the Fisher Norths, which is the cast anvil. You know, a lot of times with them, they'll have it, you know, basically on the base of the anvil, what year it was made. I don't have an idea how old this one is. I know it's old because of the wrought iron base to it, and that it was a foundry made, which just recently they've started getting into a little bit more of the going back to those. Last anvil that yeah, I'd like to go over as far as the shape wise is what they call the double horn anvil. Those are definitely you know, a specialty type anvil, just like if you want to say the old square ones that were used for saw makers. They you know, basically the double horn ones was for the armorers, the different really different trades, you know, as opposed to the blacksmith in Europe. So this being your standard, or if you get a more historical one, you know, you can also get the English pattern. I'll see if I can you know, basically put it together a short little film on all the different kinds of anvils that can be found. But mostly in my shop, you'll be seeing this anvil and my mouse hole, you know, which is going to be set up for my apprentice Kurt. And you know, like I said, it's the centerpiece of blacksmith shop. So, you know, making sure that you have a good anvil to work on and taking care of it. You know, as we progress, I'm going to sit down and show more and more. You know, I just kind of wanted to have a video here, you know, to tell you a little bit about this one. I think I picked this one up in Grants Pass, Oregon when I lived there before moving to Kentucky. So definitely It's got some miles on it, and it's got some age. And I can definitely tell you it's got a lot of projects onto it. So it's I don't think I've ever had a better anvil. Well, I'm going to close this out and say thanks for viewing, and thanks for getting to know my anvil that's going to be centerpiece of a lot of these videos. Be sure to subscribe, hit the little bell to be able to follow, for notification of all the different ones that we produce from here. And look us up on Facebook. Our page on there is same as the name here on our channel, Kentucky Traditional Leather and Forge. And thank you very much. Talk to you later.